How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather SpongeBob 1000, and today we're going to forecast the type of conditions you should expect this May for the United States. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the Enzo Outlook over the next several months, which gives a good idea of what type of weather pattern we're bound to experience in the United States. And you see that for the month of May, the most likely scenario is that we will experience La Nina type conditions. So we should expect La Nina type pattern for the United States for the month of May. And what typically happens during a La Nina is, if I were to show you guys right now, we typically see a flanking jet stream that moves southward into the United States, and it brings a lot of cold air at times, especially to the northern Midwest as well as the Pacific Northwest. We typically see conditions a little bit more moist than average as a result of a Pacific jet stream moving through, and we also see more moist conditions than usual throughout the Ohio River Valley, where we do see that jet stream dip pretty much peak right around the Ohio River Valley, where the amount of instability is the highest for a heavier amount of moisture to occur right around the Ohio River Valley. We also see warmer and drier than average conditions for the southern United States, so that's something we need to keep in mind when making this forecast for the month of May in terms of what type of conditions you should expect. And another thing we need to take a look at is the Drought Monitor, and you see that as of April 28th, 2022, you see that pretty much the entirety of the western half of the United States is under a severe drought, and this makes a big difference when it comes to the conditions you experience, because of course not only is it drier than average during a drought, but it's typically a lot warmer than average during a drought, because dry soil heats up a lot faster than moist soil. And since there's a strong drought that's going on for the western half of the United States, the soil is going to heat up a lot faster thanks to how dry it is. So as a result, for a lot of the western half of the United States, I expect this drought to continue, as well as warmer and drier than average conditions for the western half of the United States. So that's something we need to keep in mind when making this forecast as well. And taking a look at the eastern half of the United States, you see that there isn't much of a drought going on. So I'd expect at least around average, if not a little bit more precipitation throughout the eastern half of the United States as a result of a La Nina, which typically does bring more jet stream dips to in and along the East Coast, where we do see more troughs move through. So as a result, I do expect maybe right around average or above average precipitation for the Ohio River Valley for the month of May. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But for the West Coast of the United States, expect drier and warmer than average conditions, because typically it's very difficult for a drought to go away, since it's a constant cycle that's very hard to break out of. Of course, since there isn't a lot of moisture in the soil, there's less water that evaporates, and as a result, there's less precipitation, and it just sort of creates an endless cycle where it's just very difficult to get out of drought, and I expect that to continue into the month of May. So that's something we need to consider when making this forecast as well. Now, another thing we need to take a look at is the Cfs Climatology Model, which is a computer model that forecasts long-term conditions for the rest of the world. And you see that in terms of the temperature anomaly that the Cfs Climatology Model is expecting for the month of May, it's expecting mostly warmer than average conditions for a lot of the southern portion of the United States, as well as the eastern half of the United States, as it's very reminiscent of how a La Nina typically looks, where we do see warmer and drier than average conditions throughout the southern portion of the United States, as well as cooler than average conditions throughout the Pacific Northwest, as well as the northern Midwest. So based on this, it's safe to say that the southern United States will experience a warmer than average May. And it's possible for the East Coast as well, further northward, thanks to what the CFS model is stating, as well as the fact that during a La Nina, typically we do see warmer and drier than average conditions further southward. So with both data points pretty much being in line with each other, that definitely gives more confidence with what type of temperatures you should expect this May for the United States. And I'd say it's more likely than not cooler than average temperatures should be expected for the Pacific Northwest, as well as the northern Midwest states, where again during a La Nina we typically do see more pronounced jet stream dips. And if I were to show you guys the precipitation anomaly forecast, so for the month of May, we do see that it's expected to be more moist than average throughout the Ohio River Valley, which is perfectly in line with what typically happens during a La Nina, and same goes for the Pacific Northwest. So based on the fact that both the CFS model and what typically happens during a La Nina are in line with each other, I'd say it's safe to say that the conditions that are shown that are forecasted from the CFS model will likely most be accurate, especially since we're still in a drought throughout the southwestern portion of the United States. So drier than average conditions should be expected in that area. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when making this forecast as well. We also see more moist than average conditions further eastward, so that's something to keep in mind along the Northeast. So as a result, for a lot of the United States outside of maybe the Northwest Pacific, I'm expecting warmer than average conditions, as well as more moist than average conditions for the Pacific Northwest and the Ohio River Valley. Now, another thing we need to take into consideration is the water temperatures, because the water temperatures play a major role in terms of moderating the temperature and the amount of lift or sinking air there is within a location. And you see that along the Pacific coast, we do see sea surface temperatures warmer than average. So if you're along the immediate coast of the Pacific in the United States, there's more likely of a chance that although you guys are in a drought, typically I'd say temperatures will be more in line with average despite being in a drought, because cooler than average sea surface temperatures should moderate the temperature a little bit. But what the sea surface temperatures will also do is create a more stable environment for the western half of the United States, which should allow for the drought to continue over the next several, I'd say, months, to be honest. And if we were to take a look at the sea surface temperatures along the eastern half of the United States, you see that throughout the Gulf of Mexico, the sea surface temperatures are much warmer than average. So I think this could lead to a more humid and warm environment for the Gulf Coast, which is definitely, and combining that with the fact that that we're going to see a more significant jet stream dip could mean that it's going to be a little bit more moist than average for the Gulf of Mexico states. However, again, we're still in the La Nina, so the La Nina could cancel that out, because we typically do see drier than average conditions during a La Nina for the southeast. So I'd say it'll cancel each other out for the most part, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, where we'll either experience a drier than average southeast or a more moist than average southeast. If I were to give a guess, I'd say it will be a little bit more moist than average, because that's been the pattern over the past several months, and I'd expect that to continue, but I could be wrong about that. But if we were to take a look further northward, what's interesting is that sea surface temperatures have actually cooled down just off the mid-Atlantic coast, which is definitely interesting, and it could maybe bring temperatures down just a little bit, but especially if you're close along the coast. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, taking a look at my official May forecast for 2022, you see that I'm expecting a much colder and more moist environment for the northern United States, as again a La Nina is going to dominate. That typically brings more jet stream dips and more moisture throughout the northern half of the United States, and I'm expecting more warmer and moist than average conditions for the southeast, because we'll typically see more jet stream dips, and we're going to see an environment where air will lift a lot more, and we'll see a lot more buoyancy with the air molecules as a result of a warmer than average Gulf of Mexico for this time of the year. And I'm expecting much warmer and drier than average conditions throughout the southwestern United States as a result of the current drought that's going on, and we typically do see drier than average conditions during a La Nina. So I expect that to continue not only for the month of May, but for the next several months. So this is my May 2022 forecast. Keep in mind, take it with a grain of salt. It might not be 100% accurate, but I'd say these type of conditions should be more probable than not for the month of May. So keep that in mind as well. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. If you want to see more weather-related content, make sure if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a great day.